And I'm live. Welcome to Andy Makes Movies. And today we are going to talk about, what are we talking about? Oh, how to write a contained thriller. And what does Laurel and Hardy have to do with a contained thriller? We'll get to that later because it's not quite as important, but we will talk about that. Okay, so nobody's on live with me now. I don't really care. Oh, one person is. Thanks for joining. So, I don't know. Let's get right into it. This is it's kind of different for me to jump right in here and talk about a specific topic on screenwriting. But since the two screenplays that I sold were both contained thrillers, I thought, this might be a good stream to talk about, since I've had success in both areas. One of them sold for quite a lot. Hey, goodbye, my dad, welcome. One of them sold for quite a lot of money quite a while ago. And then the second one just sold last year. Also pretty decent, and got turned into a movie. And they're in post-production right now. I'm very super excited. And they are both suspense thrillers. So before we get going, I just ask that you it's my brother, not my dad. Hey, Goomba. I should have known by Goomba. Where were we? Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, so this kind of gets pushed out. And, hit the little bell, and you'll get some notifications for upcoming videos. I'm going to be talking about working with writing partners, how I sold my screenplays, how I've made six figures on YouTube, and a bunch of other filmmaking and screenwriting stuff. So I'm going to start with something I didn't think I would have to. I put this out earlier that I was like, I'm going to go online and talk about writing a contained thriller. And a lot of people ask me, well, what's a contained thriller? And I wasn't expecting that question. And quite honestly, I'm not sure how to answer it. So, a thriller, I guess, is a suspense movie where it's a kind of edge of your seat, one thing happening after another. But a contained version of that is just, it all takes place in one location. Although that sounds like kind of any movie, one thing happens right after another. I guess it's more thrillers, just like, suspense, set up. And hello, Sid, hello, Richie, yo. Thanks for joining. So, thrillers, intrigue and suspense, and a lot of anticipation, keep you on the edge of your seat. And it's all building up to one climax, which again sounds like every other movie out there. So let's see. Let's talk about I think the first thing I'm going to talk about is why. Why was the dude that said shotgun? Oh, hey, what? What? I'm totally missing that, Richie. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Let's see. Why write a contained thriller? That's a really good question. There's, I think, a couple answers to that. For me, it was much easier. I stick these characters in a situation, and I got to work them right out of it. And so to me, I think having that limitation was very helpful. But beyond, my personal thing, why? Well, I think they're very desirable in the film business. Oh, on your past live stream, on your movie on the stage. Oh, if anybody's watching, we had some pancakes. How are you? Thanks for joining me. How's the weather out in Hawaii? Where were we? I'm so sorry. I'm so caught up with people joining and talking. So it's why is it desirable that producers and distributors and filmmakers want to have contained thrillers? One, I think they're a little easier to sell. I think they're easy to market, I should say. And two, they're probably cheaper to produce. They're generally got a smaller cast. They don't have to build a ton of sets. I got a bunch of notes here, and everything's just kind of scribbled down on a piece of paper. So possibly they're cheaper to produce. They got a smaller cast. You don't have to find a ton of sets. You don't have to build a ton of sets or expensive locations. So that's a big, I think that's a big plus for filmmakers, producers, investors. And it's also, like I said, I think it's it's pretty easy to market. You kind of know exactly what you're getting when you kind of pitch these stories. What are great, contained thrillers. Duel, if you've never seen Duel, Spielberg's television movie starring Dennis Weaver, all takes place in a car, mostly takes place in a car, being hunted by a giant, Mack truck, which I think is there's a lot of stuff he learned in that he obviously used in Jaws, which I think really the whole third act of Jaws on the boat is really in its own contained thriller. So it's good because even if you're not writing an entire movie that's that way, the lessons that you learn, you could use it in different acts of other stories. Rear Window, obviously Hitchcock, Rear Window, Rope, Lifeboat, I wrote down a couple. I went and I wrote down, there's a movie called Devil, and there's a great log line for Devil, right? And they're so easy to pitch, I think, when you got a little contained thriller, which is also, I think, one of the maybe reasons that'll intrigue people and get people to want to maybe pick up your screenplay and read it. Devil, a group of people trapped in an elevator, and the devil is mysteriously among them. And here's the one for Panic Room, which is Jodie Foster and Forrest Whitaker, I believe. A divorced woman and her diabetic daughter takes refuge in her house's panic room when men barrel into the house searching for missing fortune. Like, these log lines on a lot of these thrillers are just, it makes you go, oh, I want to know more. I want to see this movie, right? So immediately you got a hook in a contained thriller, which is a great reason to write them if you can. I was inspired. So I talked about this in a different video. I actually had dinner once with Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall in 1999. And I was inspired at that dinner. That dinner actually changed my life. And I didn't mention this in the last vlog because Frank Marshall was telling me about a screenplay he was thinking about directing, and the screenplay called Phone Booth, which he ended up, I think, turning down and definitely didn't do it. And he was like, just imagine a guy gets in a phone booth, the phone rings, picks up and says, if you hang up the phone, I'm going to shoot you. And I was like, brilliant. And to me, obviously, it's inspired by Hitchcock's, quote, saying something like, if you know what you're doing, you can shoot an entire movie in a phone booth. And obviously the people who made that movie didn't know what they were doing, because that movie, what it could have been and what it was are two very different things. But that drove me nuts, where I wanted to see, I wanted to write a movie that had such a great hook like that. It's such a great idea. And the challenge of writing an entire movie that, takes place in a phone booth. I've never read that script, but I would love to read it. But that set me thinking, and I really wanted to come up with an idea. And I came up with an idea called The Man in the Rearview Mirror. And it was about a man, his wife and mother-in-law driving across country. And the husband begins to suspect that there's a woman tied up in the trunk of the car in front of him. And the movie all takes place in real time, and it all takes place within the car. And I had a writing partner at the time, and we wrote that screenplay, and we won a couple awards. And one of the judges at the Austin Film Festival fell in love with the script, and he optioned it, and then later ended up buying it. Never got made. Long story. I think the people who who own it now are in prison. So true story. We'll get to that on a different time. Jim Carrey was going to be in Phone Booth. I did not know that. Yeah, I like Colin Farrell a lot, actually. But man, what a disaster of a movie. So that movie never got made, but that conversation that inspired me. And then later I was in a museum in Abilene, Texas, and I was reading about cowboys in the old days. And when they had all these little small settlements and towns, and they had, if they had like a bad guy that needed to go to jail, they would tie him to a tree and wait for the sheriff to come around at the end of and at the end of the week or month and pick them up. And I was just like, that's it. That's a great idea for a movie. What if somebody's got to stand guard against this guy and the gang comes after him? And that was the basis of Surrounded, which is the movie I sold and got made last year. Changed a lot after it got sold, but it got optioned a ton of times. But man, we came really close to having it made several times, and then finally, this group got in it, and we decided to make a lot of changes to it. Originally, it took place all in real time and all in one location. The time jumps a little bit over a day or so, and the locations expanded a bit, but it's much more of a classic Western, I think, than it is what I would call a suspense thriller, where before it was a suspense thriller with a Western setting. So now, this is really long, and I haven't really gotten to anything, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I hope this is some value so far. Let's see. How did I pick up writing the Man in the Rearview Mirror? Normally, I just start right from the beginning, fade in, kind of know what the setting's going to be, who the characters are, and I just write. I don't outline, which I think a lot of people wouldn't agree with me doing. I've only ever outlined once, and it worked out for me real well, but I haven't been. But Man in the Rearview Mirror, I just picked a scene right in the middle. I didn't know where to start or how to start, and I just grabbed my characters and I just threw them in the middle of the movie and wrote a scene, and then kind of wrote the scene before it, and then wrote the scene after it, and then it started giving me more ideas. And eventually things had to get changed and moved around, but that's how I started. But how do you do it? Okay, so again, to me, it's one of the easiest things to write because you have a location, right? So if you're going to have a contained thriller, what's important? Well, your location's important, and your location is a character, obviously. So you got to know that location. You got to know everything about it, and you got to know how the characters interact with it. Is there a ticking time bomb? I think a lot of these things, are time based, right? There's something going to happen. You're trapped in a coffin. What was that movie? You're trapped in a coffin, and you're going to run out of oxygen, or the 127 hours, right, where he gets stuck in the canyon and he's going to die if he doesn't get out. He's running out of time. So you just find this location and you put your characters and you stick them in there, and you throw them into whatever's going to happen to them, and just ask yourself, what happens next? What happens next? And of course, you got to, also you got to know, what do your characters want? What are the obstacles to get what they want, and how do they overcome them? But every time they do, they just got to keep getting deeper and deeper into trouble. You got to keep moving forward into more and more trouble until there's really no way back, right? And once they've gone to this point of no return, then there we are. We're at we've built to your climax, and then you got to get them out of whatever the situation is that they're in. Here I wrote a note: tension and release. Tension and release. Just build the tension. Build the tension. Release it and build it. Build it. Oh, that brings me to Laurel and Hardy. Now, if anybody out there doesn't know who Laurel and Hardy is, they were comedians from the 20s and 30s and into the 40s, but their heyday was probably the 30s, and they made mostly shorts, a couple features, but they were the masters of Laurel and Hardy. Pancakes, you still better be watching. They were the masters of taking something really small and building on it. I got to get this piano up the stairs, and just this little thing about trying to get this piano up the stairs, right? We got to clean the house before the wife comes home. And every little thing that they do to try to clean this house before the wife comes home is it just keeps building. It keeps building. Now, to me, they're hilarious, right? But beyond that, the lessons you learn from them that you could take, and I've taken so much from Laurel and Hardy, how they construct the scene, how they take something and they just kind of keep building and building and building on it, that I think I have successfully sold to screenplays that are that are not comedies at all, because of the lessons I've learned from Laurel and Hardy. I know I've kind of been all over the place. Anybody got any questions? Pancakes left. I know got some people watching. I found this quote earlier that if anybody gets a chance, if you guys really want to read a book, the Hitchcock Truffaut book is absolutely invaluable, and especially if you want to know about suspense. Hitchcock talks a lot about suspense, and one thing he said in the book was that suspense is the most powerful means of holding onto the viewer's attention. And that's basically because you have the viewer asking what will happen next. And maybe for me, that's why it's so easy to write. And it's also been not easy to sell, because it's been a journey, but it's definitely gotten the attention of the reader, and if really interested filmmakers, producers, directors, and actors, time and again, because it doesn't allow them to kind of put it down. And by the time I've gotten a character out of one jam, he's in another one. By the time I asked one question, answered one question, I've asked two more. And I think that has helped tremendously in selling my two suspense thrillers. I hope that was useful. Everybody think? Do you got any use out of it? Please hit the like button, subscribe, and comment, and let me know what else you want to talk about. I'm here to answer any questions and kind of go through this process of writing, and thank you for coming on this journey with me. I really appreciate it. That's it. I'm saying a lot. So check out my other channels. Check out my other videos. Stay tuned for more. Coming soon, I'm assuming. Thanks, guys. Oh, I gotta put these down.